Welcome to the True You Summit. I'm Carrie Rubin, your summit host and Chief Mom Officer at the Modern Mom Society. I'm excited to bring you this summit to help you get the tools you need to live an authentic and joyful mom life that's aligned to what your body, soul, and mind desires. I hope you enjoyed this limited time free interview with one of the 15 experts that are here to discuss how you can get closer to your true you. Each day of the summit, we will explore 5 different areas of your life where you can improve your connection to your true you as a busy mom. Parenting, mom life, authenticity, spirituality, and mind and body. You'll have 24 hours free access to listen to the 3 experts discussing the topic of the day. Otherwise, you can purchase lifetime access to these life-changing series of interviews. There are 2 different packages available. The basic package, which includes all 15 interviews in MP3 format, can be purchased for $29, or the deluxe package, which includes all 15 interviews in audio, video, and transcript format, so you can get this great information whichever way you prefer. Plus, the deluxe package also includes bonus PDFs. One is the How to Connect to Your True You guide. It highlights the ways that the experts shared in their interview as to how they personally connect to their true selves, as well as the common ideas and themes throughout. So if you're new to connecting to your true you, or you're out of practice, you can start trying on these different ways of getting in tune with your inner wisdom, intuition, and true self right away. The second bonus PDF is Key Takeaways from the Summit. As I was recording all of these interviews, I noticed common themes and threads throughout. And this bonus document highlights these keys, so you'll be sure to get the most important ideas and begin to make shifts towards a happier, joyful, more aligned, and more fulfilled mom life today. The $29 and $59 prices for the basic and deluxe packages are good now through the end of the summit on May 10th. After that, the prices will go up to $59 and $89 respectively. So if you think you're going to miss any of these great interviews, or you'll know you want to have lifetime access to them, be sure to grab your True You Summit package upgrade today. Here's today's interview. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, and welcome to the True You Summit presented by the Modern Mom Society. I'm Carrie Rubin, your summit host and Chief Mom Officer of the Modern Mom Society. I'm excited to bring you this summit to help you get the tools you need to live an authentic and joyful mom life that is aligned to what your body, soul, and mind desires. Today's expert is Kim Foster Carlson. Kim is an award-winning broadcast journalist, having spent the last 27 years as a member of the San Francisco Bay Area radio and television media. Kim Foster has worked as a traffic reporter, news anchor, sports anchor, and talk show host. Kim's first book is Good Enough: How to Overcome Perfectionism and Fear of Failure to Live Your Best Life. It gives the tools you need to overcome the obstacles that have been holding you back in an easy-to-read format with concrete tips on how to live your best life. Now, I consider myself to be a recovering perfectionist, and I've seen how my perfectionistic tendencies have kept me from being my true you. Feeling like I was never good enough clouded a lot of what otherwise would have been seen as incredible accomplishments. And as I've learned to be okay with good enough, has really liberated me and allowed me to live a more authentic life, one that's aligned with my higher self, and one in which I stretch myself to achieve more because I'm not as afraid of failing. I was really excited to have stumbled upon Kim's book and her practical suggestions as to how to overcome perfectionism. In this interview, we discuss what led Kim to write the book and the simple things she did to start a move away from perfectionism to being good enough. She also offers tips as to how to help your kids overcome perfectionistic tendencies as well. Now, even if you don't consider yourself a perfectionist, I guarantee her suggestions are something that will help you live a more true you life. Here's the interview. Welcome to the True You Summit, Kim. I am excited to have you here because perfectionism is one of my things that I've been working to overcome.
Me as well. That's why I wrote the book.
I'd love for you to start by telling us how you came to write the book.
Well, I always struggled with perfectionism and fear of failure. And then I started to see it in my kids who were athletes. And I thought, oh no, I've got to try to stop this pattern. So I ended up in a therapist's office because I was just completely paralyzed by fear and of failure and perfectionism. And she said, well, you can't think of things as all good or all bad. You have to think of things as good enough. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Can't believe I'm paying money for this. And she said, just try it for a week, come back in a week. And I was like, okay, I'll try this, but this isn't going to work. But I tried it, and it slowly but surely helped me with a lot of things. It's like, okay, I tried my best today. That was good enough. I'm going to move on to the next day. So it sort of got you out of that spiraling fear of failure and perfectionism. So I started to write down all the tools and tricks that I was given by the therapist and that I learned myself in order to help my kids, because I could see them really struggling with it as well. And wrote really the book for them, and then it's resonated with their friends and parents of athletes, and it's moved on from there. So it's been pretty exciting.
Yeah, I can see that there is a lot of this in our society where people expect to be great out of the gate, and especially just fear of, like, I have this fear of I have fear of failure. Yet, like, I don't even try starting something, because if I don't do it perfect right out of the gate, then I'm going to, feel like a complete failure, and I could have done better. So to your point about your children, do you think they were born that way, or do you think they were raised to become perfectionists?
I think part of it is both, but my parents were both firstborns, and I was firstborn, and they were, very striving people, really felt that education was the key. And my dad was an Air Force pilot. My mom was a British nanny. She came to the United States, and so we were raised very British, very, stoic, and and I'd come home with 6 A's and a B, and she'd say, why wasn't that B an A? Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, I guess I got to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And I tried not to do that with my kids, but it was the same thing. I was a swimmer, and they started competing in swimming, which is a very difficult sport.
Oh, sure.
And I saw that they had procrastination, which is sort of the side effect, like you said, is like, you don't want to try. I was like, oh, I'm not going to try that. I'm not going to be I'm not going to be the best at that. Why would I try that? So I started to research this, and I really found out that failure is the key to success. If you can fail, keep failing, that gives you information that leads you to success. So, and I saw this in a lot of my daughter's friends, that they were the same way. And swimming is such a difficult sport. You're racing a clock. There's so many factors involved, and they'd add a 1/10 of a second, and they'd just be so upset. And so I tried to sort of say, it's not good or all bad. It's good enough for that day, and you have to sort of let go of that perfectionistic, I called it a tizzy that you get into, and you're like, oh, I'm not even going to try anymore because I'm not going to be the best,
Yeah. And I think there are a lot of other downsides to having perfectionistic tendencies. Can you elaborate on some of those?
Oh yeah. You sort of get yourself out of the game. I think you say, you compare yourself to other people so much more than when you realize that people are so really into themselves. They're not really looking at you in that way. Mm-hmm. So you sort of get this magnifying glass of, oh, people are looking at me like I have to wear the right clothes, and I have to drive the right car, and have the right house, and all that. In reality, people are so self-absorbed, they're not really seeing that, Mm-hmm. And if you knew how little people talked about you, you wouldn't even care, Right. So I talked about that in the book, and I also talk about staying in the moment. You have to really radically stay in the moment to sort of get out of that perfectionistic spiral that happens. And if you do that, like, I'm fine right now, right in this very second, there's no problems. I've got no concerns. But if you're living in the past, you're sort of depressed. And if you're living in the future, you have anxiety over what may happen. Mm-hmm. But if you can radically stay in that present moment, which is not easy to do. I found that was really was one of the keys to helping me get over this perfectionism.
Yeah. And that is basically the crux of why I wanted to discuss perfectionism in this summit, because I feel like with comparing ourselves to other people and just striving to be perfect or like an unrealistic ideal, you're not being your true self. And again, yeah, just being in the present moment and accepting things for what they are is the key for sure.
Right. And so I looked at who I am, who embodied that the most. And I, out here on the West Coast, we have the Golden State Warriors, and Steph Curry embodies that. He loves the game of basketball. He was only 6'2". He wasn't recruited. No one thought he'd make it to the NBA. And here he is, they won the world championship 3 times, and he's a 2-time All-Star. And his whole goal is to stay in the moment as he plays basketball and play with joy. So I was like, joy? What's joy? You're so bogged down with your kids and your family and your job. But you see this guy that is out on the basketball court, and he's smiling, he's having fun with his teammates. And that's truly what the coach has embodied as well, is that if you play with relaxed confidence, you're out of that reptilian brain, the sort of oh no, I'm going to fail. Oh no, you get into that relaxed state of confidence. And his coach from college said, he was never a fear of failure. Steph Curry, he would miss 5 3-pointers in a row, but he had no lack of confidence that he was going to make the next 3. Mm-hmm. So I use him as an example in the book because he really embodies everything that it means to be successful. He's not afraid to fail. He has failed. He's had really bad games. He's had really bad injuries, and but he always comes back to that stay in the moment, play with joy, and he gets his teammates to do the same thing, and it's been so successful for them.
Mm-hmm. And joy has come up a bunch in the interviews I've had for the summit, because when you follow the joy, the rest doesn't matter.
Right. Exactly. And that's hard to do when so I talk about gratitude, which is one of the main ways to stay in joy, and to write down 3 things you're grateful for every day, and 1 person to thank that day. And pretty soon, if you do that for 21 days, you can change a habit. And some days you're like, oh my God, I'm just grateful that I had a cup of coffee, or I was able to get out of my pajamas today.
Success.
You have those days. Yeah, you have those days. But sooner than later, you start adding on, and I'm thankful for my dogs and my family and the sunshine today. And it sort of gets you out of that self-loathing, so to speak. It gets you into why, and gratitude, I think, is the key to everything in terms of
that's come up a lot in the summit too, for sure.
Yeah, living your most authentic life. If you're staying in the moment, playing with joy, and are grateful, it goes a long way to getting you through your day in a wonderful way.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other tips you could share from your book on other tips of how to overcome perfectionism beyond the staying in the moment and practicing gratitude?
I talk about, meditation. I'm sure everybody's talked about that, but it
that's
really
come up a lot too.
help. It calms your brain. It helps you, sort of stay in that radical moment. If you're really just, listening to your breathing and everything like that. I use that a lot. And I talk about, there's a school called Smith College, and every freshman has to take it, and it's a failure class, and they have to fail at something, because they were seeing all these kids coming into these Ivy League schools and, these high education centers, and they're used to getting all A's, and they get 1 B, and they're like, I'm out. I'm failing out of college. And they're like, okay, you got 1 B. And so they really looked at this class, and they said it's changed the culture of the school and everything, and it's like they have to find something they're really not very good at, and talk about that, and how, failing at that is okay. And so I even talk about, find something you're not very good at. I swim, and anything on land, I'm just horrible. So I've been really trying to work on my running and my biking, to do some triathlons, or it could be skating, or it could be, singing in front of a crowd, something that that you're not very good at, but you need to overcome sort of that fear of failure. Mm-hmm. And once you do that, you're like, you've got more confidence that you can go, okay, if it doesn't work out, I'll move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. And not be afraid to try. Because I saw that really in my kids, that they were afraid to try anything that they weren't good at. And I think that is, that doesn't help you in life, because there's a lot of things you're not, people aren't good at. But if you have fun doing it, and you stay in the moment, play with joy, who cares?
Yeah, my kids have a hard time with that too. And for example, we would go ice skating and they would have a hard time staying up. They'd fall down a lot and they would get really frustrated they couldn't figure it out. I don't want to do this anymore. But I think over time, with some practice of coaching them through, hey, you know how many times I took lessons. I've been skating for so many years. That's why I'm a little bit better at it. I think they're getting better about continuing to try, which is so important.
And that's all you want, is that they don't give up, right away, that they kind of have that persistence to stay in there and stay in the game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So what were some of the areas that you found yourself displaying your perfectionistic tendencies that you were able to overcome?
Oh my gosh. Mostly it started with radio, because I'm in live radio, news radio, and lots of stuff happens in live radio. And I had one news director who said, you're doing sports. This was back in the 80s. And he said, you're a woman doing sports, anchoring, not that many women do sports. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be listening to you even more carefully. So you can't make any mistakes. And I was like, what do you mean? Every little word or every, phrase, I would go over and over and over again just to not make mistakes. So I was almost afraid to fail, as opposed to just relaxing and enjoying my craft. So mm-hmm. I saw it come up in that. And then I had a child with autism, my son. And I thought, if I could just be a perfect mother, read everything, and I could cure him, like somehow I could, whatever the latest technique is. And that's when I ended up in the therapist chair, because I was, yelling at the teachers. I was yelling at my husband and my kids, and everybody was miserable, and I couldn't figure out why. And it was because I was trying to be perfect in every way, And once I realized I could be good enough for him, it'd be better for him if I was good enough and did the best I could that day, and then let it go, as opposed to pushing him. And now he's independent, living independently and doing great. But back then, I didn't understand why the doctor told me he will never drive a car, he will never get married, he will never, be normal. And I was like, oh, I can make him normal. In reality, he's taught us so much more about being not normal.
Yeah.
and who is normal.
What a gift. I mean, you never want to wish that on somebody, but what a gift to shift your perspective.
Yeah, he has been he's an amazing artist, amazing person. And I'm glad that we went through it, but it was hard especially with your parent of special needs child.
Oh, I can't even imagine. It's hard enough when you don't have a special needs child.
Yeah, the kids are hard. No one tells you about parenting, but now that they're adults and they come back and tell me, Mom, you were a really good parent, and that means the world to me. So
that's so wonderful. Yeah, the being a perfect parent thing, I think, is super common. And I mean, especially when they're super young and you're just trying to figure things out and find your way. And I had a coach tell me once that your kids don't benefit from you trying to be perfect. They benefit from you being human and being mm-hmm. who you are, and seeing how you navigate through being human, because we're all going to have days that don't go so well, where we mess up and we make wrong decisions, and how we bounce back from that is more valuable than trying to be perfect.
Exactly.
Do you have any other tips to share about how we can help our children? Is it similar to what you would do for yourself, or do you have other suggestions for moms who have children who are displaying perfectionistic tendencies?
I talk about in the book, my daughter was a swimmer, and she was very, very good when she was younger. And she's like, I want to go to the world championships. My time would get me second or third place. So, she barely qualified. She qualified as the second swimmer to go to the world championships, and they were in Rome. And then she goes, it'd be fun to make the top 8, just to see how I do. And she made 8th. So we're like, oh,
awesome.
Just enough, good enough. She goes, and what would be good enough for, to come out of this meet? She goes, it'd be really cool to win a medal. They only have, 3. It's like the gold, silver, bronze, like the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And she was way out in lane 8 or lane 1. I mean, she was in the way at the end, and we watched it online, from home. And all of a sudden we're like, I think she got third. And it comes up on the board that she got third place. And she was more elated than the girl from the United States that won the gold medal.
Yeah.
And she called me. She's like, I've never been so excited to get third place in my whole life. So it's almost like she used the techniques, that we were teaching at that time to sort of, I wouldn't be disappointed, but it'd be great if this happened. Mm-hmm. And it sort of got her out of that, I got to get first place, I got to get second place, I got to get third place. Mm-hmm. That relaxed confidence. And I'm sure that helps with parenting. It helps with test taking, because if your kids are so stressed out about taking a test, they're not in that relaxed confidence, higher brain thinking. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be harder for them. So I try to really teach them that nervousness is okay, but if you have confidence and you're relaxed, you're going to do a lot better.
Mm-hmm. It's great advice. Do you feel like you've overcome perfectionism?
No, I'm recovering.
I know. I call myself a recovering perfectionist too. It's hard. It's really, really hard when you're used to trying to nail it and get it exactly perfect every time. It's hard to step back and be like, what would be good enough,
Yeah, and you have high standards. Like good enough doesn't mean I get to lay on the couch all day and go, that was good enough today.
Right.
You still want to have goals and objectives and things you want to do in your life. But I think if you when you win, you learn, and when you lose, you learn. So all of it's information. So I feel like if you're good enough that day, you get information about what comes next and things like that. Mm-hmm. Talking to you today, my computer went down, my iPad went down, and so I'm like, I'm on my phone. I hope that's good enough.
It's good enough. We'll make it work. We'll definitely make it work.
So it's sort of being flexible in those things too, and teaching kids that is the key. If you could teach your kids to be flexible and sort of embrace change, because change is what happens all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think I see, especially my son with autism, change is really hard, and so teaching him to sort of embrace changes instead of fear change is a good parenting tip as well, I think.
And patience and grace, I think, too, is a big point as well. You're not going to fix this overnight, and then you got to be like, all right, that didn't go as well as I hoped. Let's try it.
Yeah, and patience is hard when you're, I had 3 kids under the age of 3.5.
Oh gosh.
And the third one was not developing at a normal rate, and so that sort of got us worried. But I think patience, if you can have patience, grace, gratitude, your kids pick up on every emotion that you have. I know I know mine do. They can look at my face and go, what's wrong? So they're very intuitive. So if you are staying in the moment with them, enjoying their company, they're going to know that for sure.
Yeah. And it's more what you do in your body language than what you say, for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I have that mom face, too.
Yeah. I think we all have one of those. Yeah. Anything we haven't covered before we close out that you'd want to share?
No, I'm trying to think. I think you've covered all of it. I'm just happy that it's resonated with parents of athletes and parents as well, and millennials. I've had a lot of millennials email me and thank me because they were sort of stuck about what to do with their life, and this has helped them sort of navigate those fears.
Yeah, I could totally see that, because that generation was raised to be exceptional. Everybody had to be exceptional, and that's not reality, No, not at all. Yeah, I think they're struggling the most with all this stuff. Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get some people to pick up your book and get them on the path to good enough, right?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I have one last question, and that is, how do you connect to your true you?
I meditate every day. I don't, I'm maybe down to 20 minutes, because after that I sort of lose focus. But I love to swim. I'm a swimmer, so I've been swimming training for open water swims. We swam with dolphins in Hawaii, just out in the wild. We found them. So when I feel like I'm in the water for some reason, that's my connectedness to the world and to the wisdom of the world. And we're going to the Cook Islands in a couple of weeks, and we're going to swim there. So once I get in the ocean water that's warm, not the cold ocean water,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm one with the world for some reason. And I swam forever, and it's sort of this lonely sport where you're looking at a black line on the bottom of the pool. But I didn't realize how much you learn meditation and staying in the moment when you do swim. So that's my jam.
I love that. Great answer. Thanks again for being here, Kim. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Carrie.